Good afternoon, everybody. All right, today, if you haven't seen the fishing report for Oregon, please, I posted that this morning. Thought we'd go over some hard baits for today. So, we are going to go over some of my 6 cents. So, one of the things I wanted to go over was one of my favorite hard baits, and it's called a swink. Yeah, I don't know why they call it a swink, but the swink is really a different type of hard bait. You just don't run across these too often. Notice the lip. See how it's sort of an L? This is a shallow dive hard bait, and it has a hard knot, and when it goes through the water, it just does this. And this thing rattles like a baby rattle. So, an amazing hard bait by 6 cents called a swink. Let me see if we can get that up on the see if we can get this up. Give me one moment, and I'm going to pull up the 6 cents page and put it in the window here. So 6 cents. It's called 6 cents fishing, and we are going to go shallow swing 77s. Good. Alright, let's get ready to rumble. Transition over, and off we go. Alright, so this is the 6 cents website, and this is a video that they have. So let's watch the video, and you can see the action a swink does. So let's look at it. See how it sort of suspends about 3 feet. Look at it. Listen for it. So yeah, this thing can bounce right off of the rocks and stuff too. I don't think I've lost a swink yet. Alright, let's go back and okay, so that is the swink 77X. Good size. Now you can see I actually have a variety of swinks. My favorite, and this is awesome in murky water, out of here. It's called a Black Magic. I caught my personal best on this one. Awesome. So you can see, here's just a few of them that I got. Da-da-da-da. They're fantastic lures. And these right here will suspend about 3 feet and make that incredible action. Now, one thing about fish are instinctive. And they don't think too much. They don't think at all. Everything that they do is off of instinct. So what ends up happening is that when this thing comes about in front of it, if it's something they kind of recognize and it annoys them enough, they strike it. Bass love to feed off of the front. So, having the treble up front, and these are nickel-plated trebles that are extremely sharp. Believe me, I've got more holes in my body because of these things. These things are designed to trigger that biting response. You saw it go through the water. Going through the water will annoy anything, including myself. And this thing will just come through and jump on it. What I will do when I run these things through the water is that I'll pull them. I'll do a fast retrieve pause. Fast retrieve pause. Fast retrieve pause. Usually on that pause, bam, that's where I get them. And that is the Swank 77X. Fantastic. Fantastic a bait to have in your box. And my suggestion, if you really wanted to try something, try that Black Magic. This Black Magic. My goodness. That Black Magic is magic. In fact, I would love to have the entire collection of this. You can see how the bottom sort of has a chartreuse line down it with the orange front. It's green eye. Look at that eye. It's 3D. The eye is. Look at it. It reflects light. It's an amazing boat lure. It's almost an iridescent blue stripes on it. This is an amazing bait. Really is an amazing bait. This thing will glow and they will jump on it. So I would suggest getting a Black Magic. In fact, I want to get a Black Magic topwater, the Mag Dog. So one thing too about these hard baits. I fish with hard baits. You know that I need to practice my soft baits. In fact, I'm waiting for a delivery of my my Ned rigs now, and I'm going to use those. But during the for bass, the reason the largemouth bass got a big mouth, it likes to swallow up its prey, and your job is to annoy them. So, alright, now I'll show you another Black Magic. This, as you know, is a short bill crank. Again, very shallow. I sometimes can run these right on the surface of the water, right below the surface. And this one is silent. So, this is a silent one. But notice, again, we still have that 3D eyes. Look at the eyes. The iridescent blue. The stripe on the bottom. This is an amazing bait. Again, what we're doing is we're trying to get them to strike off of instinct by annoying them a little bit. Or a lot of it. Alright, that one's not a Black Magic. It's close though. I wonder what that one is. It's not a Black Magic. I'll have to look that up. This one's purple. Again, looking under the underbelly. See how they changed the colors just a little bit? Again, this one runs a medium diver. This one's going to run about 6 to 8 feet with that large bill. This one we're going to try to knock off of rocks on the bottom. So we're going to fish it in 5 to 6 feet of water, and we're going to try to knock this off of the bottom. It's not going to catch because if you notice, look at the bill, the lip, and where the hook is. And our string tie, our tie is right there. So it's going to just be bouncing, bam, 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 off the rocks, and trying to provoke a strike. Trying to provoke a strike off of some bass that are sitting on the bottom. All right, I'm going to show you my #1 lure. It's my #1 lure. I've caught more fish on this than any other bait in my collection, and I have quite a collection. This is called a Mag Dog, and it has been bitten. It has been it's what we call a walking bait. This is the 130. This is the big one. I've had sharp. I've had more success with the big one than the small one because I do have a smaller one. I do have, not in this box. And what ends up happening is this takes a little practice. You tug it, and what ends up happening, it shoots left, shoots right, and it walks on top of the water like this. And it has sort of an indentation right here under the chin, and it pops a bubble every time. So bubbles, 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 and it gets their attention. And it does have weights in it and bearings, so you can hear it. What ends up happening is that when you can cast this a football field, cover more water with this than any other bait that I own. So that's probably one of the reasons why I catch so much with it. I can cast this 100 yards and then work it across, along the shoreline of the lake. This is the one bait when it comes to topwater action you should have in your arsenal. It's called a Mag Dog, M-A-G-D-O-G, Mag Dog 130, and it is the #1 topwater bait you need to have inside your arsenal. You just have to. I need to get me a Black Magic of a Mag Dog. That's what I need. They're sold out at the moment, so I looked. So these, let's see if I got a soft baits. It's not a soft bait thing right now. All right, let's talk about lipless for a second. Lipless cranks. I've caught crappie on lipless cranks. I have caught perch on lipless cranks. I have caught bass, largemouth, smallmouth, whatever. Lipless cranks are exactly what they sound. It's a crank without a lip on it. That spoon on the front of it. And what ends up happening, notice that the tie is on the center back. So what ends up happening is that, like the other one I showed you, this is going to bounce off of rocks. Bam, bam, bam. And you're going to just pull it through, and it's going to do this. Wiggle. Make that sound through the water. And it's basically a burner. This thing will burn through bushes, through weeds, through debris, bounce off of rocks. This will do anything just to get from point A to point B while it's making sounds. Again, what we're trying to find those fish on the bottom and annoy them enough to cause them to have to strike. Lipless cranks are probably the most popular that I have, and again, slight different sounds, different color patterns. And I think Do I have it in this box? This one's called a bleeding shad, which, by the way, works really, really well. Sometimes the bright colors, I've had days where a fish will bite nothing twice. I'm going to have to just switch it up. I'm just going to switch it up. So, okay. This is a different type of lipless crank. It weighs very differently than, this one. This is much heavier. This one, underneath, I don't know if you can see that. It says suspended. So with a suspended lipless crank, it goes down, it doesn't touch the bottom. It stays at 3 feet. And what's nice is that you can get it to go and then just stop. Let it sit there. And it'll go ahead and look like a dying fish. Then go, stop. And it'll just sort of sit in there. And what that'll do is it'll trigger that response from a bass to eat the weakest prey. And that's what you're going to try to do with this one. The suspended bass is for those that are fairly shallow water, probably 4 feet, maybe 5 feet. And this is going to go to 3 feet. It's going to annoy them just above them, and they're going to come up, and when it sits, it's going to go for it. Amazing. Really, it's tough to find a suspended lipless crank, but 6th Sense, of course, makes it. And this one's a flat-sided one. What ends up happening, it creates a different aerodynamic. And this has sort of a, I don't know if you can hear that. It's a soft knock, but this thing has more movement. I think it's called a movement. This thing goes crazy. And they changed the design of these. And some of them are much bigger than others. So let me look. Let me get one that's... You can see a big difference in size between these. Now, what would make one go... let me grab it that way. There you go. You can see the difference there. Hang them upside down. Sometimes we go with a smaller bait in order to trigger feeding, because the fish will go for smaller baits more readily than bigger baits. And so what we'll do when we have a slow day is that we'll throw a smaller bait out there, and that'll trigger a school of fish to feed. So sometimes we go with something smaller, and or even tinier, in order to start the feeding frenzy. So when we're fishing and they're just not biting what we're giving them, go small. If you go small, you're not going to catch the big ones per se. You might. But when you go small, the smaller or medium-sized fish will go ahead and strike and start a feeding frenzy. Hey, Jay. How you doing, Jay? So sometimes when I go to look at my fish finder and I see these fish down there, I'll go ahead and say, okay, how come they're not hitting, my guarantee? And usually I'll fish these 4 or 5 inch baits. So I'll throw on a small one, a 1.5 or a 1 inch bait, and I'll toss it down there, and they'll go ahead and hit it. And once I get one fish to hit it, then I can pull out another rod and go with a bigger bait so I can get the bigger fish. And that's that's really the way you're going to have to play it. Because my swanks, the 77s, these are not small. I mean, they're 77 millimeters. These are not small, but man, will they catch? I mean, my personal best is 4 pounds, and that's what I caught it on. Was a 4 pound, which is just a few months ago. So it's amazing. You can pull out something as tiny as this. Super light, by the way. See how tiny little that one, little boy. This right here, this will trigger feeding responses. It's a tiny little bait, and this little bait is even got. You can't hear it really, but it does have knockers in it. So this little bait might be just enough to start a good day off. Really cool. So it's always important to downsize when it's slow. Go small, then you can go up. So way too many, huh? You haven't even seen the big ones yet. I'll save the big ones for another video because I've got some really, really large ones, and those are for extremely, deeper areas. Again, when you're pulling a jerk bait through the water, you want it to hit bottom for the most part. You want it to hit bottom. So you want it to hit the rocks. You want it to bounce off the logs. You want it to create mayhem on the bottom of the lake. So if I'm working, at a 20-foot deep area, I need to go with a deep diving bait, something that goes 25 feet, something that can dive straight down there and bam, 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 get off, off the rocks and off the debris down below. So that's why we go ahead and we choose all these different baits. That's another plus about going with soft baits too, because soft baits always go down to the bottom. But it's all a matter of presentation, isn't it? So with my Ned rigs are going to give me a completely different presentation, and also very good for trout. And in this area of Oregon, we have 10-pound trout on average coming out of this local lake, and I've never caught a 10-pound trout. So this right now steelhead is running. I'd love to catch steelhead. So looks like I'm gonna have to find a spot to go steelhead fishing, because a steelhead is I don't know if you know what a steelhead is, but a steelhead is a trout. It's a rainbow trout. It's just a really, really big rainbow trout. So after a certain size, they renamed it a steelhead, and it is just a massive, massive fish. A 20-pound fish. And so they're running right now here in Oregon, and it's time to get out there and do some steelhead fishing. So, all right, so that is today's episode. Please look at the fishing report if you're in Oregon. Also, I threw a whale watching report there too, because the whales are starting to migrate off of the coast of Oregon right now. And so there is a brief mention of whale watching in today's report as well. So have fun, guys, and don't forget, tune in tomorrow for the giveaway. So tune in tomorrow for the giveaway. Please have a safe holidays. It's Christmas Eve. Everybody will be closing early, and hope you're with family. So